Whenever she considers voting in an election to select one candidate for a position and there's at least one issue important to her, Kay uses the following principle in choosing which course of action to take. It is acceptable for me to vote for a candidate whose opinions differ from mine on at least one issue important to me whenever I disagree with each of the other candidates on even more such issues. It is otherwise unacceptable to vote for that candidate.
All right, so what does that mean?
So this girl who's thinking about voting, she says that whenever she thinks about who she wants to vote for in an election, um, she has to select, hold on.
And there's one other part, right? And so whenever she is thinking about voting for an election and there's at least one issue important to her.
Okay.
I feel like that's important. Okay, continue on.
Okay. So there's at least one important issue that she finds important.
Right. She's not like, I don't care about anything, whatever's good. Yeah. She's like, there's at least one thing I care about. She's like, whatever lunch prices are, that's what I'm voting for. Just kidding.
Yes. Kay uses this principle in choosing which course of action to take, so to decide who she wants to vote for. It's acceptable for her to vote for a candidate whose opinions differ from hers on at least one issue important to her, whenever she disagrees with other candidates on even more such issues. So I'm thinking that even say there's like 3 or 4 candidates and there's one issue that she finds important that she agrees with, she doesn't care about the other ones.
Excellent.
And then those other candidates I was talking about, it's unacceptable for her to vote for that candidate, so she will not vote for that candidate.
Awesome.
In the upcoming mayoral election, the 3 candidates are LeGrand, Medina, and Norton. There is only one issue important to Kay, and only Medina shares her opinion on that issue. So there's this election coming up, and there's 3 candidates, and the only issue important to Kay is the one that Medina shares her opinion.
Okay.
Medina's the one that
predict anything. So sometimes that must be true questions. What we can do is put together 2 of our premises and draw a conclusion from that. So based on what's been told so far, can we make any predictions of like, oh, well, this would have to be true too?
Well, if Medina is the one that shares the important issue, then Kay would have to vote for Medina, because LeGrand and Norton don't have any issues important in common.
Excellent. All right. So go ahead and start with A and tell me, love it, leave it, or hate it.
Okay. If there are no issues important to her, it is unacceptable for her to vote for any candidate in the election. That's very true, because she states that she will only vote for somebody.
So what happens if there are no important issues to her?
I guess that we don't really know that it's
excellent. So if there's nothing important to her, does that mean that she can't vote?
No.
So this is a very trick answer, and they put it for A for people to select it and move on. But technically, if she doesn't care about anything, we don't know what happens, because in our situation here specifically, there is one specific issue important to her. So that's why, since we don't know what would happen in this situation, we get to cross it off.
Okay, perfect. If she agrees with each of the candidates on most of the issues important to her, it is unacceptable for her to vote for any candidate in the election. So if she agrees with each of the candidates on most of the issues important to her, no, that's so wrong.
Yeah, and it's not happening here either. We're like, so we're like, we have no idea what happens if she agrees with most of them.
If she agrees with a particular candidate on only one issue important to her, it is unacceptable for no.
She agrees with a particular issue on only one important that is of her. Yeah,
excellent. That's the opposite. Literally stating the opposite of what,
Excellent.
If she disagrees with each of the candidates on exactly 3 issues important to her, it is unacceptable for her to vote for any candidate in the election. I don't think that's really anything either.
48. So
hold on.
What's the principle? It is acceptable for me to vote for a candidate whose opinion differs from me on at least one issue whenever I disagree with each of the other candidates and even more. Okay.
So this person has 3, which means that this is wrong because this has nothing to do with it.
Right. But this one is a little bit more tricky because it tells us in it where it says that it is acceptable for me to vote for a candidate whose opinions differ from mine on at least one issue important to me whenever
Mm.
I disagree with each of the other candidates on even more such issues. And so where this one gets super tricky is it tells us that she disagrees with each of them on exactly 3. So it's the same.
Oh, man, I hate the LSAT. Okay, so then D is correct.
Oh yeah, D, yes. D is like, because it's like,
Okay.
because if you just apply the reasoning I gave you earlier, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, it's not D. But since it gives us kind of that, what is that called? Like that stipulation, it's like, no, let's plug that in here. And it's like, oh, well, it's not appropriate because she disagrees with all of them on an equal level. All right, and what
Yeah.
about E?
If there are more issues important to her on which she disagrees with a particular candidate than there are issues on which she agrees with that candidate, it is unacceptable for her to vote for that candidate. No, that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we
It's
have no comparison going on in ours, right? Where we're like, oh, she agrees more on these issues than these other issues.
mm-hmm.
And we're, yeah, that's irrelevant. We don't know what happens there. And so our answer is going to be D.
Now my question, you know how we go through them A, B, C, D, E?
Mhm.
Do you recommend that I go through them like that, or should I read all of them first and then kind of consider? Because a lot
Oh,
of people say you should.
absolutely go. Oh, sorry. I guess I have a strong opinion on this. Go through A, B, be extremely critical the first time through. So if you can cross 3 of them off, do it. I would rather you at this phase in the game cross all 5 of them off and have to reread them than go through and be very passive, because whenever you start considering multiple answers at a time, they start blending together and you start to get confused.
Okay, perfect.
And then on top of that too but the one time that I think that it's okay to skip over an answer is like if you read it and you just don't understand what it's saying and you don't have an opinion, that's when I'm like, okay, skip it and see if you can cross them off so that there's an answer that you're like, oh yeah, that's the correct answer. I get it. I love it. I selecting it. I'm moving on. Then you don't waste a bunch of time like just dissecting one answer.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
the only time I kind of recommend doing that.
Okay.
All right.